Hello, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Tolkien with Friends. Today, we're not talking about chapters from Lord of the Rings. We're diving into the trailers that recently dropped for House of the Dragon from the Game of Thrones franchise and for Rings of Power. This past weekend was San Diego Comic-Con, so information has been dropping left and right. And we have Callie Cosplay joining us at the outset, and we may have a few other special guests joining us as we go. So, Callie, thank you so much. I mean, you have been on the podcast before, but you didn't get to hang out with Anna, so I'm excited to introduce you two and have you here together.
Thank you. I am very excited to meet Anna. I unfortunately missed her last time that I was on. So this is nice for all of us to get to be together and talk about really exciting things. Like this weekend was just crazy for the Rings of Power stuff.
Totally crazy. And I know that I think George, I think he went to Comic-Con. I feel like they definitely had a panel. So everything nerdy everywhere all at once. That's the theme.
That is what Comic-Cons are for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like several of our friends got to go to all the Rings of Power stuff. Yeah, I know.
But it's so nice to see them all together and like such big smiles and just loving life and having fun and doing what they love and meeting all the cast members and just
very cool.
So happy for them.
I know they haven't said anything about New York Comic Con yet, but I'm like fingers crossed that like since they're kind of related that they would do something for honestly, like if they do something for House of Dragon, Anna, I will go for you. I will do that. Please. I will go panel, whatever it is, and then hopefully Rings of Power as well. Because it will have been airing for like a month at that point. For Game of Thrones, it's going to be like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, that could be all the episodes. We don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. How many episodes are they doing? Have they said? No. Shoot.
What about for Rings of Power?
I don't know.
Yeah,
do you know, Callie?
Was it 5 seasons of 8 episodes?
Maybe.
I mean, I could sit here and very confidently say 6 seasons of 10 episodes, and people would probably. That doesn't sound right, though. I feel like it might be 5 of 8, or maybe 5. Yeah.
So
whatever it is, it won't be enough.
Yeah. Well, if it starts on the 2nd, we would potentially be on 2, 3, 4, the 6th episode by Comic-Con in October. But if they drop more than one episode ever, I don't know.
Some people are thinking like 2 at the beginning and then
Some people are speculating that because the first 2 episodes are supposed to be like a prologue, like first age stuff, since most of the story is in the second age. But we don't know.
There has been so much speculation, and like I don't know about you ladies, but it has been hard for me to keep up with it all.
It has been crazy. I there was a point where I was trying to like make TikToks and like comment on what was going on, but there have been so many smaller trailers and then all of the things happening this week. I've just been like, I can't. So let's just get it all out right now. Like we'll just. And I also find that I think talking through stuff like this is helpful because with trailers, even even the fully fledged trailer, it's not a teaser anymore, but it's still only like flashes of things. But only this time, like now we're finally getting to hear from the actors and not just like visuals,
Mm-hmm.
So let's kick off with House of the Dragon. But before we go over what we see in the trailer, Anna, just for like our background or like people tuning in who may be interested in checking out the show, but maybe they don't know anything about Game of Thrones, like is there anything that you think folks should know going into this show? Or do you think HBO will be making any assumptions about what fans know? Like, for example, assuming people have seen Game of Thrones or most of it, or is there any knowledge that you think would be helpful for people to have before the show airs?
Yeah. The main things that you need to know are that this is all about the Targaryen family. So in the regular TV show Game of Thrones, we see that the Targaryens are no longer in power. It's Robert Baratheon, and this is unique because that change in family controlling Westeros is the first time that that's happened in like 300 years. It's all been Targaryen all the time, domination. Um, and what's going to happen in the House of the Dragon is a civil war, one could call, between some members of the Targaryen family to control the big throne, the seat of the power.
Okay, yeah, I was getting some Civil War vibes in
Yeah.
the trailer. Okay, that's good to know. Do you think that people should see Game of Thrones before this, or do you think it will be like it doesn't really matter if they've seen Game of Thrones or not?
I don't really know if it's gonna matter too much because it takes place
Before.
so much more before the events that we've seen.
Yeah.
Of course, family names and things like that matter, but these are all new people. They have all different dynamics than like a Baratheon. Um, hold on, a Baratheon Lannister, relationship in Game of Thrones is much different than it is, for example, in the age that we're going to be covering in the House of the Dragon. So
Right.
you could really just like be picking up House of Dragon from scratch and hopefully still enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good to know. I feel like probably similar for Rings of Power as so far as like, yeah, like you're kind of familiar with the setting, but overall, like if you're just a fan of like fantasy stories and like particularly dragons with House of Dragon, I feel like it sounds like you can enjoy it no matter what. You know what I mean? It's not like sometimes I think, for example, with Marvel, it's like, oh, you need to have watched all these other things to kind of fully understand what's happening, and I think that's harder if you're trying to enter a fandom. So I feel like this is a good opportunity to like be introduce more people to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying I don't have to rewatch the last season of Game of Thrones in order to enjoy this new stuff?
No. I mean, I always advocate for people to rewatch Game of Thrones. The last season is particularly irrelevant. But yeah, no, just go in and enjoy.
Nice.
Westeros.
Hell yeah. Okay, so talk me through it. Like, what are we seeing in this trailer? Yeah. Or what do you think we're seeing?
Right, so what do I think we're seeing? So before there were just teasers where it was really just quick snapshots of the characters and who's there. So you have King Viserys. He is the leader of the Seven Realms at this point. We see his brother Daemon. We see his firstborn child Rhaenyra. Everyone's gonna have to forgive me. I don't know how to pronounce these names yet. They're not here.
I
They're not.
Don't know how to pronounce things from Tolkien. So.
Yeah. So we're just pretending at this point.
Yeah.
And then we have his new wife, Alicent Hightower. And what can be kind of confusing about the trailer is that they show Alicent and Rhaenyra, whatever, as younger folks. So they're going to do either some half the season, hopefully, is when they're younger, and then half the season is when they're older. We can definitely see that they've hired two different actors to play these characters. I don't think we'll do much flashbacks because that can be kind of confusing for people.
Yeah.
But we see King Viserys talking about who's going to be my heir.
Yes.
And who isn't. And where the conflict lies is that Daemon, who's played by Matt Smith, he wants to be the next in line if anything happens to Viserys. And spoiler alert, he is supposed to die. So I don't know if they're gonna like when that's gonna happen this season or next, but like don't get attached to this man. He is
Don't
not
get attached to anybody. This is Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah.
but
That's interesting because I did note that they were like, don't make me choose between my brother and my daughter, and you did see a lot of lines about like, oh, there was even like a woman saying to her like, you know, women don't inherit the throne, like don't worry about it, but then she's like, I'm inheriting the throne. So is it like those two, like people siding with the brother and the daughter?
there's actually three. There's Daemon, his brother, Riri, we'll call her Riri.
Yeah.
And then Alicent Hightower, who's his new wife. And she wants her kids to be next in line for the throne. So with his brother versus Riri, I think that dynamic is going to be interesting because they're both Targaryens. They're both like quote unquote full Targaryens because they like to do the incest. They like to keep it in the family. And it's common for people in power to not want women to be in power. You know, we see this in lots of other novels. We see that in
real life,
current politics. But I wasn't quite picking it up like as strong, but like the only reason why Riri can't be in power is because of a woman. She's a woman. They kind of lean on it heavy in the trailer, but it's also just like a minute of content.
Yeah, it makes you think that they had some good, you know, I don't know what it's like to be a trailer putter togetherer, but you know, I'm sure you're like taking all these random bits and then being like, "Ooh, that sounds nice," or like, "Oh, hey Nick, we're currently talking about House of the Dragon."
Nice.
And the trailer and what we're seeing in there. But do you want to say hi and say who you are and like where to find you real quick?
Sure. Hi everybody. I'm Nick. You can find me on TikTok at Fornost42. That's Fornost42.
And just one more time, and then call 888.
Just go 888.
There was an ad in an Uber, like they had the radio on, and they just kept being like, "Call cash 1 2 3 4 now!" And I was like, "Dang, Josh, do you think we should call this number and get our $750?"
Exactly. Aww.
Okay, so we've got the brother.
Yeah,
we've got
Daemon the brother, and then so his firstborn Riri, which is his daughter with his cousin aunt.
Okay.
It's there's a lot of overlapping.
More like a web than a tree.
Yes, but so someone whom he produced this child with a relative, a blood relative, whereas Alicent Hightower's kids.
So how did they get together? The king and this lady?
Good question.
Okay.
I don't know those details yet.
Okay, so something happens to wife Uno.
Yep.
And then he remarries.
Yep.
And she's not a Targaryen.
No.
But then the people that she wants to, it's not like stepkids, like she has kids with.
Yes.
Okay, and then so she's like, no. Do they have a boy?
Yes.
Okay, so she's like, no, it makes sense to have your boy. Look, I gave you one right here.
He's like, nah, you ain't a Targaryen. It should be my firstborn, Riri.
Yeah.
Thus, the chaos ensues between Daemon, Riri, and the Hightowers.
How does the king pick? I guess we don't know. I think
he tries to pick, but
so does he have a preference? And then everyone's like, "Fuck that."
Yeah, he prefers Riri, but then he's gonna die, and then what? You know?
Okay.
It's people basically killing each other for their succession.
Okay, so we see a lot of I see a lot of sword play in the show or in the trailer. There was also a line I think that somebody threw out like, but your family has dragons.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are you talking, like, yeah, like, two
So, yeah,
halves of this family have dragons. Is
yeah,
there only
so not
one part?
everyone is a dragon rider. You have to form a special relationship with a dragon, and there are older dragons that have been around since like Aegon the Conqueror, and then newer dragons. And you could one of the kings before this wasn't a dragon rider, but then his kids were,
Oh,
so that could cause some tension.
I would be
Um,
sad if I wasn't one and everyone else
yeah,
was. But,
yeah. And they come in all shapes and sizes. So also
oh,
you could be like, I've got the better dragon than my sister does. I don't know. They're
mm,
hopefully they play into that more. But so yeah,
yeah,
they're not all dragon riders.
Mm.
But we do
that's
see lots
fair.
of dragons
That's good.
in the trailer, which is good.
Yeah, I was excited.
This makes me
Same.
very happy. Yes.
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 Love dragons.
Where are my dragons? Well, here
Give me
they are.
dragons.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're
I mean,
close.
you've got them like flying around. You've got them like getting pets, or
Yeah.
just close ups into the camera. So
So
I like
there's
that.
one particular scene with Damon, Matt Smith, and a dragon. Hopefully that's like him either trying to bond with the dragon he's choosing, or him just interacting with his mate.
Mm,
Um, so we'll see.
cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Yeah. So do some of these people? So if you have a bestie dragon, then you can probably also ride that dragon. Are there any people where it's like, yeah, he's my dragon, but he doesn't like that. He's not into flying around.
They if you've got your bestie dragon, you usually ride it as
Get to
well.
ride it. Okay.
So in the TV show Game of Thrones, they make it seem like you kind of there's like weird moments where Dany seemed like she had like full control over Drogon or whatever, and that's not necessarily the case. At least what I've read so far in Fire and Blood, they are kind of like, that shit looks spooky. I'm not going over there, and they'll
Right.
fly their people somewhere else. One of their ancestors like accidentally got taken to Valyria and caught some weird like zombie disease because he was like, I'm not flying where you're telling me to. We're gonna go where I want. And she just ended up being in like Valyria for a long time and
Damn.
didn't do okay there. So
Wow. I'm like, thanks,
They-
dragon.
they're very opinionated.
Yeah. I mean, that's rough when you got like two conflicting. But I do like that idea of them being kind of like. I mean, they kind of a wild animal that you're trying to make your pet, and that doesn't always go well, like in real life. So I
Mhm.
like that it wouldn't always work out for you in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just went and saw Nope, and for anyone who has seen it, yeah, don't try to tame wild animals. That's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I end up on Wolf Talk, and I always see people
Oh.
being like, "Stop crying." Stop. It's like wolf sanctuaries.
Yes.
And like Nick knows.
I kind of love them, but I'm like, y'all.
They're like, stop buying wolf dog hybrids. Stop trying to make wolves your pets.
Yeah.
They're not good at it.
They're not good at it.
They're not
No.
there for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh my
Nope.
goodness.
Yeah. So, but I like that as far as like the dragon, like a dragon. I mean, it'd be weird to have one that just kind of is like real docile.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'll clip him out. Sometimes I leave him in if it's relevant.
Right.
Cal's making a good point.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones, they mentioned when they build the dragon pit for some of the dragons to live in, that's also the decline of their family, because once they're trying to overtly tame and cage the dragons is when they become weaker and smaller.
Mm.
So
Isn't that what happens with Dany's two other dragons?
yeah, she does lock them up for a good period of time, and then some people let them out because they're like, dragons shouldn't be locked in a dungeon. But I also think Drogon is just larger and stronger, even from the get-go.
Okay.
Viserys and Rhaegar,
Yeah.
I think was the other dragon's name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, Riri.
Yeah.
So Riri.
She's Riri now. So.
Riri now. If everyone get on the train, we're not gonna refer to everyone by their real names.
No.
It's too many names.
I love
Not when they all
literally
have the same 5 names.
I know. Stop it. So in the trailer, do you think there's anything? It's like, I mean, do you feel like they're just kind of setting up that plot line that we've just discussed, or do you think there's anything that's kind of speculative? Do you think that there's anywhere where they might deviate, or any hints at them maybe doing something different?
I think it's really just a lot of setup right now. The timeline is what I think I'm most concerned about, especially since they showed the actors for Riri and Alicent being young and being older. Like how much time is going to pass in between these 6 to 10 episodes?
Right.
That's going to be a big deal, since most of the civil warring is going to happen when they're older.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's interesting, especially since you're talking about having just gotten to the king as a kid in the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's like so much setup that they're not really focusing on. They're focusing on like the latter half of the book. Yeah, so that's interesting that they're choosing to do it like that.
Yeah.
So now that we have this trailer that is more than 60 seconds long,
Yes.
how are you feeling about the show? Like, what are your expectations now? Are you more pumped? Are there other things that made you think of that you weren't previously?
Yeah. I feel like that's an unfair question because I just love Game of Thrones so much. I'm gonna be so excited, like no matter what. Like they could have not dropped a trailer, and I'd still be like, "Whoa!"
Like, yes, it's
I'm liking the fact that there's more dragons, of course.
Me too.
What Game of Thrones does really well is the battle sequences. It's a very brutal show, and they're kind of suggesting that they're going to keep it dark, keep it, the vibes are still there. Like they've passed a vibe check, and I like them.
Yeah. I saw a quote, and I didn't actually look into it, but I was on Twitter or something where they were saying that, like, they're not going to do... It's, like, less sex, but they aren't going to shy away from sexual violence, which I was like, what?
What?
Interesting.
Did you see that?
No.
And... I don't know what it means.
I don't know.
Maybe I should have researched. I didn't.
This is a very inflammatory comment to leave.
What do you think about rape?
What do you think about that?
Oh God, that's funny.
I do think people thought some stuff in Game of Thrones was like gratuitous.
Yeah.
But like,
do you think they mean
it was
like
all just in the book though? So
yeah.
What were they gonna?
Because I'm trying to think, like, do you know of like what? I know that you're on like in the book if you're like partway through, but like, have you seen anything like that?
There wasn't. There is still a lot of sex, but I wouldn't say anything is particularly violent.
Okay.
They're just like they're not. Unlike in the A Song of Ice and Fire, there were moments of very clear, like sexual abuse and things like that. Whereas so far in Fire and Blood, it's just like
we're mainly talking incest. And regular sex.
Yeah. These people seem to be more consenting.
Okay. Well, that's something.
Yes.
I mean, we'll see. I guess what happens, but for sure, dragons. For sure, some internal disputes.
Family politics.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. And yeah.
Yeah, is there any character you're is particularly looking forward to?
Uh, you know, no disrespect to
Mhm.
Matt Smith,
But
but
like,
he always be giving me the creepy vibes. So
Man.
I am looking forward to seeing him play this character. Uh, I in Game of Thrones, I tend to find the more brutal characters to be the most interesting.
mm,
So I think like if he just like is like full selfish maniac, that would
mhm.
really be that'd really be interesting.
Mm.
And the politics of trying to see people non-Targaryens infiltrate the throne is going to be really interesting. So all of the side characters trying to weasel the way in when
Yeah,
at this point there's been like long standing Targaryens on the throne. So
right. So it's been more of like a clear succession, and this
yes,
is maybe one of the first times where it's been like, hey, what do we do?
yeah, yeah,
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it looks really good, like visually so
Hmm.
far, like in the trailer. So I'm here for it.
Hmm.
Sure.
Well,
I will accept your Matt Smith slander, Anna. I love him. I love him. But the 11th Doctor is my favorite, so what can I say?
And
Yeah.
which ones is who's 11?
That's Matt.
Matt. Okay.
Yeah, so that's
I,
why
I mean, I'm a David Tennant stan, so
yeah,
Same. I mean,
I love
I'm a
it.
huge fan of him too. Don't get me wrong. Eccleston.
I,
I love him
Ever,
all.
like,
now
let's
let's
just
talk
go
about
through the list.
Yeah, but I'm excited to see him break out of his goofy self that we've seen him
Mm.
in. That like I haven't seen him in much else, and so I'm just excited to see that.
Yeah. Did you watch
Literally,
The
I'll watch
Crown?
it for that. I have watched the seasons where he was Prince, whatever the frick, and yeah,
Yeah.
he was really good in that too.
Yeah.
Kind of an asshole.
Kind of an ass, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So maybe this will be like somewhere in the, you know what I mean? It's like still royal politics, but then we also have like fantasy elements. So
Yeah, dragons and
finding his
jousting and
niche, yeah,
right, exactly. We're here for him.
yeah, absolutely. So Anna, remind us when we should be watching House of the Dragon.
Sundays. It comes out August 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, brilliant.
Nice.
Yeah, so right before Rings of Power.
Yes.
Right before. Jeez. I guess I'll just be watching TV this fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Gonna
Coming
cancel
this
everything.
My ass
Yeah.
on the couch.
Yeah.
But that was smart of them because, like, let's be honest, Rings of Power is going to blow it out of the water if they're competing. Like, I just think they have the hype. It's a new original show. Like, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like more people have Amazon than HBO, so
Really?
that could be a factor too. I don't know.
I
Well,
don't
if you have Prime, you have Prime Video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people have Prime.
A lot of people.
I don't know. I could be off base on that comment.
I think it's
I have
been
no idea.
longer since like Lord of the Rings content has been produced, so more people are probably excited about that. Whereas it's only been 3 or 4 years for Game of
Good
Thrones.
point.
So
Yeah.
And it ended in such a way that so many people were like soured by it.
Yeah, I think a
which
lot of people feel
sucks.
burned.
Yeah.
So we can see you now, Emily, but we can't hear anything.
Yes.
I haven't tried talking yet. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Now it's a
We're having
party.
good time.
There we go.
Cool. So that is House of the Dragon. We will be tuning in, and I know Anna, you and me will probably find time to talk about it. So I don't know, girl. You're gonna have a baby,
I
so
know.
who knows?
and watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, you'd be like,
The first
Covered
thing
in
we'll be
lies.
introduced to.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how we can continue to represent Game of Thrones on the pod moving forward. We'll figure it out as we go. But
Yes.
you love it, so we all love it. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how this works.
Yeah, because I make you listen to Lord of the Rings shit for hours on end.
That's friendship.
Literally, we could probably start counting how many hours I've made you listen to this. So, we're here for House of the Dragon, and if you're not, then you can go away. Thank you. So, let's talk Rings of Power. And I know, Anna, you'll probably have to go in a little bit, but I feel like we have had so many Rings of Power trailers. I don't even really know where to start because we've had several teasers. We've had even like that Amazon ad that was just like about the little boy, the little kid.
Oh yeah.
And where it like kind of showed the Ents just for funsies. I mean, it wasn't really anything, but that was like our first shot of Ents, and then they finally made it into one of the other teasers. So what do you guys think? Do you guys want to talk the San Diego Comic-Con trailer first, and then maybe weave in stuff that we've seen from previous teasers?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm especially excited to hear Emily's take, because you said you liked a couple of the other teasers, or maybe it was just the last one more than the San Diego Comic-Con one. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah. I don't disagree. So, okay, so in this newest trailer, we get some things that we have seen before, you know, like with the birds, and we're still seeing Meteor Man, whoever the heck that is.
Less of him, though.
Yeah, but still there. You know, we've got the white tree, which, incidentally, you know, we know him. He will end up in Gondor later. He's like a replica of previous trees. It's just all trees. So, yeah, I mean, I've been so excited because for so long we were getting visuals and we were getting posters, and then nobody was talking.
No
like, there
dialogue. That was something
Right.
that, like, when we were in London and we saw the footage and stuff, we were just like, oh my gosh, dialogue. Like, people are going to lose their minds because none of the content up to that point had been dialogue. And I was like, please, 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 please. People will shut their mouths once we hear the characters like talking to each other, like how they speak to each other, the accents, the like words that they use. I feel like was so underrepresented in like earlier teasers and stuff. So I'm really glad like not only the like full trailer, but the like the last teaser that they did like last week also had dialogue. Very exciting.
Yeah, I think that it makes a huge difference. I mean, even with like the House of the Dragon one, this is the first one where they're really talking, and it just because the whole time you're like, okay, like I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with this, but like, could you confirm? Like, give me a sense of what the show is going to be like.
Yes, now we have like a plot. Like we kind of know like sort of. We don't know the order of everything, but like we sort of have a plot now, which I feel like is important to get people excited about it. Because like if you don't know what's happening, if you don't know what you're going to be watching, like yeah, there's beautiful landscapes. That's super awesome, but like what else? What are they going to be doing?
I love that, but like we knew you were filming in New Zealand, so we got
it was obviously going to be gorgeous. Like I don't think anybody was under the impression that it wasn't going to look good, but we're sort of like okay, like what are they going to say? What are they going to do?
Exactly.
So
well, and then I think even more people were nervous. Yeah, I think one of the biggest criticisms Jackson's trilogy got back in the day was they didn't love the writing that wasn't pulled from the books directly. Like some people didn't love it, just didn't feel Tolkien enough, which I disagree, but like
it's back
teach
on
their
the
own.
Menu, boys.
Exactly. But like this felt like Tolkien dialogue, even though there's no dialogue to pull from. There's no actual source material dialogue to pull from. It still felt more of the era.
How much they really
did I think
pull from his work.
Like having this drop at the same time as we're getting the panels, and like we've had interviews with the showrunners before, but it was all text. Like we're finally getting to hear them talk about it, and like there's something, you know, like maybe we could assume tone in some of the articles, but I think that there is something to hearing everyone a part of the show being so passionate about it. I think that that has been something that sets like a lot of the that sets a show apart, and I think that's something that we've all really come to love about Peter Jackson's trilogy. It's not just like, I know people like embed false memories in their brain about how Tolkien-y it is or not, but I
Right.
think part of that is like you get to know these folks like in the behind the scenes. Like we have had years to just be like, feel like we know them. You know what I
Right.
mean? And understanding how that chemistry behind the scenes and in front of the camera like translates to good storytelling. So I think
Yes.
that the combination of like seeing the characters in character, like talking to each other, and the actors interacting with each other and chatting about it, and clearly having spent so much time not only like playing the character but like really trying to understand who their character is and like the world around them and stuff. I think that that has been really, really nice to see.
Yes.
You know,
That is the
I really
best.
loved the SDCC panels when they were talking to the actors, and the actors all like had just perfect pronunciation of, I mean, their own name, but also the other ones, and they insisted upon it. So clearly, like,
Yes.
they've studied it. This all means a lot to them, and that was awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like affirming the literal I don't remember any of their names, honestly, but affirming Arondir's character's name, like saying it not only proper pronunciation, but even with like the slight accent, like using how he says his name, like it just feels like real camaraderie.
Yeah.
And then the actor who plays Theo talking about his mom, and then they all like shout out to her, like she's not literally there, but they're like, we love you, like you're part of the family too. So knowing that it was this 18 months I think they were there during lockdown, like that camaraderie, I 100% agree with all of y'all for that.
So let's give a brief overview of like what we see in the trailers. So, you know, we've got Galadriel putting a helmet on this like mound of helmets, and them talking about like, we thought the war at last was ended. They're talking about days of peace beginning, and you know, we're seeing shots of elves and dwarves together at a table. I don't know, like, you know, they're all like, everyone's getting along. We see little kids running around. We thought our light would never dim. I think that these little lines have been really nice. And then we get kind of a tonal shift with Lenny Henry's "The skies are strange," you know, and we get more meteor shots, and everyone's just like looking at it, and we're all also looking at it like, what the heck is this? And then we've got Galadriel and Muriel, who is, I think they're setting her up to be the leader of Numenor during the show. And they're looking into the Palantir, and saying, "It is here, the moment we feared." And I'm like, okay, well, we'll get into that in a second. We're seeing like flashes of battle. This is, to me, saying a lot of like Galadriel's memories. You know, we're seeing some of that. Some of the battles that we've previously seen, like that are kind of mysterious, and it's like, are they underwater? Or it's all red. Like, are they underwater? Are they not?
Right.
We see Finrod, you know, Galadriel's brother, in battle, and we also see him all scratched up and like presumably dead on a table. The white tree, you know, with I don't know, it's something about like all the like the petals falling down. There's like a little foreboding action there.
Very much.
And then we've got,
it actually conjures up, I don't know if any of y'all ever played Warcraft 3, but like the petals falling, it conjures up this cutscene in that video game that's like right before the ultimate betrayal that sets the plot of that video game in motion. And it just like literally down to the like, it's from an aerial shot, like the main character is looking up at the falling petals, and it immediately made me think of that other fantasy franchise. Yeah, so I'm with you there. It's even like overcast, like I'm looking at it paused right now, and it's like, yeah, something is about to go down with whatever is happening right before.
And I love the callback to the tree, because we haven't really seen it in flower before, like in Peter's trilogy, but we do know that there's a white tree. You know what I mean? And it's like a nice,
and it's much
callback
bigger.
Without.
It's like much grander than the one.
I love
the
it.
ancestor of it that lives in Minas Tirith. I was like, whoa, this is. You can tell like that's the tree. The other one's like baby tree. This is like the tree.
Yeah.
The tree.
Yeah, the granddaddy tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got Evil Does Not Sleep, and then the shot of like the cult looking people.
Mhm.
Somebody's got like a hood on, and they're on a cliff somewhere. Tempting Shadow. And then I love we get shots of the dwarves sprinkled in here.
And their armor is so
Oh, the
cool.
beards,
I
the
love
beard
it.
protection, like that's
Oh,
just
it's so perfect.
so perfect.
And they're talking about tempting shadow to bury us all beneath the mountain, and I'm like, interesting. You know, we get another shot of Galadriel covered in ash again, like we've seen this in previous trailers. And with the overcast of like the line saying he has not one name but many, and then we see like a flash of like a castle looking thing. I think this is like Sauron's Isle of Werewolves, but some people are talking about it being something that she's searching in the north. You know, we've been seeing flashes of like them. You know, we know Galadriel is hunting down servants of Morgoth, and maybe specifically Sauron. And we see a lot of that happening in like snowier terrain. So I've seen some people think it's like something up there. I'm like, but what would be up there?
Right. Especially with Angband gone.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that was like way
northwest, exactly. But I heard one person's theory, I think it was Nerd of the Rings in his breakdown. He thought it was the ruins of Autumno, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if I'd buy it, but I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah, the Isle of Werewolves thing makes me think. Well, like, so we've seen Finrod looking all scratched up and dead, and then we're suddenly talking about Sauron. You know, we've got the human talking to Theo, like the guy, I don't know who he is, saying like, "Have you heard of Sauron?"
Oh yeah.
You know, which I was kind of surprised that they even mentioned. Sauron.
I was like, wait, did they just name drop Sauron?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
I thought he wasn't supposed to be in the show at all.
Yeah.
For the first season, anyway.
Yeah. So, but obviously they filmed that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Obviously they
Because
we don't know, like, that could be, like, end of the
somewhere.
First season.
Yeah.
Like, that could
he's
be
a rumor.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we've got, like, you know, when he pulls away, then it cuts to like his mom, Bronwyn, and she looks like she's in like a box,
like a cupboard or something. Like she's hiding in a closet. And
then, like, she's hiding from a creepy dude with the long fingers.
The hand.
And Josh was like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "I have no clue what that is supposed to be."
Okay,
I think it's
you remember the orcs? I do too. You remember the orc stills? I almost want to like pull those up. Is there a screen share function on this thing?
We already tried that.
Oh, dang it. So I think it's the one he like doesn't have a shirt and he has like a skull helmet because you see his claws are very like prominent there. So
I was probably just looking at his helmet. My bad.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but like I don't know. I'm about to go.
I think there's also
what was that Empire magazine?
A like transcript of the trailer, I want to say, and I believe they called it an orc in the transcript, but I'm not 100% sure about
just super spooky.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good way of getting information. I like that.
That's also why
I love that.
I don't think the hooded figure is Sauron. We can get into that later, but every time that figure is on screen, they say a figure or a person. They don't ever say
I don't think it is either. I think it's too... They're not going to do that. It's going to be they're going to sneak it up on us. I just feel it in my bones.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not good trailer cutting, if you will, to put your ultimate bad in the first actual full trailer you get of the show. Like, that's supposed to be a surprise.
That would be like if Empire Strikes Back, like in the trailer, it said, "I am your father." Like, that would ruin, ruin everything. Like, they aren't going to do that.
Could you imagine?
And that's why I just want to like shake all these people who are like, "That's Sauron." Like,
I know.
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Like, no, like, shut up, guys. Like, you're being so short sighted. Like, wait till the show comes out.
And please. I think it doesn't help when you've got all these like, you know, articles coming out from like fan sites that are just like, they're obviously trying to write something about anything, and they're like, "It's Sauron," you know, and I'm like, you don't have any confirmation. Like, you're just writing, but then it kind of legitimizes the theory when you
It
publish
does.
it.
I think Nerdist was the first one. I think Nerdist said Sauron confirmed, and then everyone saw that and just like ran with it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's don't do that.
Don't do that. It's just silly. Like it doesn't like. Also, Nerdist is not. I mean, they're not definitive
Right,
news all
no.
of the time. They need content. That's all it is.
Yep.
That's
Has
all
not been
it is.
confirmed.
So after Creepy Fingers, we see the broken sword that Theo has, and then we also see a different shot. I'm gonna assume someone else is holding it, where it's like forming, like reverse Morgul blading,
Yes.
like smoky, and becoming a sword. I don't know. We see icy fight.
Harry Potter vibes.
What,
Sorry,
Emily?
I just want to say I got such Harry Potter vibes from the scene of the wind whipping around him while he's holding a sword, like that scene where Harry gets his wand. I was like, that is exactly the same scene.
Vibe. Yeah.
Yes.
I know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that sword? I have no thoughts. Sword.
I mean, magic sword.
Yeah.
Right.
Some sort of
There's
evil.
not really a precedent for swords doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm into it. It's a really cool visual.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was like surprised
Yeah.
when it happened. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. It'll be
Same.
interesting when they explain that someday.
So the way they shot it, I'm like clicking through it on mute, just looking at it, and the way they shot Theo holding it, he's holding it like this, right? Like he's holding it up, and if it was forming, it would be forming like pointing up. Very, Anduril, sort of the north touch, like almost poking the top of the tent in Return of the King.
Yeah.
And then the next time we see it, if you look close, it's actually someone holding it out and it's forming like pointing at somebody.
Oh. I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that till just now. And I was
God,
like,
wait.
holy crap, what is happening?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have no clue.
That is interesting.
And I find it hard to tell what's happening in people's minds and what's actually happening, though.
Right.
Right.
Are they? Is this happening? Is this like a mind trick where they're like, "I feel so powerful. I could imagine this sword being fully formed," whereas it's not actually happening, right? Like it's just sort of them manifesting.
That could be.
I think anything is on the table.
Anything.
Quite
You know what I
literally.
mean? Yeah. We've got, ship on fire, icy fighting, find the light and the shadow will not find you. Debatable. Who's wearing, there's all those dudes wearing those skull helmets, swords everywhere, Galadriel asking someone to fight with her, Arondir just being cool, like kicking people, each of us must decide who we shall be. I think that's Muriel saying that, and I love her already. Galadriel is like leading a cavalry charge, orcs running through the woods, giant sea monster behind Galadriel as she swims away from a shipwreck. Excited about that. And and then I love it whenever the dwarves are there. I'm just so ready for the dwarves in the show.
Yes.
Where they're like, there can be no trust between hammer and rock, and I'm like, that is a good line.
That's a really good line.
Yeah.
We got like Numenorians leaving for battle, I think. One of the Harfoots meets Meteor Man, whoever that is.
Confirmed Nori.
Yeah.
Nori? Okay.
Yeah.
Nori meets Meteor Man.
Yeah.
She would.
She would.
I saw like the way they were talking at the panel, she seems to be like the troublemaker or like not satisfied with the status quo.
Yeah.
Arondir fighting orcs and like being thrown in a pit, and like in a previous trailer we've seen him like fighting wolves.
Yeah.
A wolf thing, yeah.
Yeah. Spooky person blowing sparks out of their hand. You have been told many lies of Middle Earth, and you see this leaf floating past what looks to me like Mithril in the rock.
Yeah, lines of Mithril in the rock. That's totally what I thought too.
And then Arondir gets grabbed by a bunch of hands, and Balrog looking sexy as ever, is what I wrote in my notes.
Balrog.
Looking
decidedly no wings that we can see. Just throwing that out there.
That's true.
Cool.
Good for him.
Face is the same as the Peter Jackson.
Like quite literally
the
same. Like
I mean, I mean, they both hired John Howe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
If
true.
not,
that's
Alan
true.
Lee, So
That's true. I'm sure there was some collaborative deal between studios too for like
yeah, because
certain
it's like,
imagery.
how do you like who does the rights really belong to when John and Alan were just like designing these characters like
Fair.
decades before?
Yeah.
Like,
Fair.
I'm sure John was like, no, that's mine. You
Mhm.
can use it,
Yeah.
but I own it, you know?
Yeah.
Or they took the wings off and that was enough.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Enough
okay,
to make it
it's
different
different. But it's smart of them, if you're going to have a Balrog, to have it even look... I would have accepted, like, sort of looking like the Jackson trilogy, because, like, it would just be silly to do a redesign for the casual viewer.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they'd be like, wait, that's supposed to be the same thing?
Right.
That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Does
Now, Anna,
New Line
before we
Cinema-
go... Oh, wait, you're talking. Go.
Does New Line Cinema, do they even do stuff anymore?
I think they went bankrupt.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
I can Google that.
If
But then who's doing
someone
more of the
Amazon
Rohirrim?
adjacent bought those
Mm.
rights, then they could just do whatever. Even if they
True.
go backtrack, like Marvel bought Sony,
Uh-huh.
so now they get to use stuff that Sony
Right, or
produced.
when Fox. When they bought
Mhm.
Fox.
Right. Okay, apparently
New Line is doing more of the Rohirrim.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and they got bought by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Who also owned... Well, of course, they did The Hobbit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Okay.
there you go.
So, Anna,
Interesting.
Yeah.
as I know that we talked House of the Dragon first, and so I want to, as somebody who's like, you know, this is all fairly new to you, like, what are your impressions from the trailer about what this show is? Or just like, what are your feels?
My first impression is that it is very cute to see you guys talk so excitingly.
Aw.
It's like the best thing. It's like super exciting. But things that really popped out to me is Galadriel's character. What is she doing? What is she hunting for? Like, there seems to be a lot of intent behind her storyline, and I'm very excited about that. I like the spooky and the creepy, if I haven't said it a million times. So, weird orc now, I guess. I didn't even connect the dots with the long fingers. That is solid. Like, that's really good. Yeah, I'm like, ew, what is that? Give me more. Also, really creepy, wispy guy with the fire. You just mentioned him.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but again, I want to know if the show can delve more into dark magic. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
I think they
all I
kind
want
of
is Baby
have
Ned
to.
as well.
Yeah, Baby Elrond, he is going to be so good as Elrond.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Like-
you guys. The first time they told us about Robert, I was like, if they just put him in front and let him talk, like, people are gonna fall in love. Like, when they first told us that, like, he started reading all the books, he would hold book clubs, he would argue about, like, I don't think that's exactly how that person should say that, and, like, would argue about lore and stuff on set. I was like, oh my god, people are gonna love this guy.
So cool.
Aww.
So cool.
I love it.
Yeah, I think he's gonna kill it. I feel like, I mean, I'm just impressed with all the cast at this point. It does give me, all the trailers do give me the vibe that, like, Galadriel and probably also Elrond, they're gonna be, like, our mains, at least right now. Like, they're introducing all of the other ones, but they're relying heavily on them in the trailers, so I think that they're gonna use, especially Galadriel, since she's been around for a long time, you know, she's going to be able to add that first age perspective in a lot of ways, and we'll be able to use, like, her memories and stuff to kind of inform, I think, her actions. But also, I just love that we're getting this, like, you know, feistier, like, never say die, like, version of her. Not that she's not that in Lord of the Rings, but I think at that point, I mean, bitch has got to be tired. right? Like carrying
Yes.
Middle Earth on her back since the beginning of time. Like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, and we're seeing Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, like, as she's passing the test,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
she was this person with all this hubris, and, like, she followed in Feanor's footsteps because she bought into some of the speech he gave.
Mhm.
So, like, trying to rally the Noldor together. Like, yeah, I want lands on my own. Hell yeah. I
Yeah.
want to be a queen. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then she wises up and kind of realizes the full responsibility of being a leader
Mhm.
by the end. So, like, we're seeing her, maybe some of that arc is going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I would think so. I think that, like, in the first age, you know, we don't hear a ton about Galadriel, and I feel like part of that is I think she feels guilty about what happened on their way over, you know. But also now, like, she's one of the last, like, mains left, you know, like one of the first elves left. So I think that she also probably feels some responsibility and decide and like is learning how to take that on. So I'm excited about that. And then you've got like Elrond, who he's clearly like in the trailers. You see him dealing with the dwarves. You see him dealing with like
Yeah.
Gil-galad and Galadriel, but like telling Galadriel to like take a chill pill, and she's like absolutely not. Which I love.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just such. It just feels right. You know what I mean? As far as
Yeah.
like, a younger dude who's probably like, it's all good now, and she's like, I just don't think so.
Yeah.
Just don't think so. So I think that their dynamic and like those two as characters are gonna be kind of a driver at this point in the show,
Yeah.
like early on, and then I'm sure that as time progresses, we'll get to know more about, you know, because they've already told us who like Elendil and Isildur are and all of that.
Right.
So they're gonna come into play, but I think we're gonna kick off with, you know, the elves that we know.
Yeah.
That's my vibe too. And I think it's smart of them, at least in revealing information in the trailer sense, to stick with the elves, because they're the stuff that all of us who have a critical lens on all of this are like, that's what we're scrutinizing.
Yeah.
Like, we know Numenor, there's very little, I mean, there's a lot of this event happened type stuff in the appendices, but there's not a lot of drama in the appendix. There's a lot of room for creating drama because, you know, they have to get to a certain point of like, what, I will not spoil anything with what happens with the fall of Numenor, other than there's an event called the Fall of Numenor. Like, that's out of the bag. Or releasing a book. But it's gonna be really interesting to see how faithful they are to. I mean, I know they don't have rights to Unfinished Tales, for example, and there's like 5 different versions of what happens to Galadriel in the First Age and the Second Age in that book.
Yeah.
But they can make references to it.
I think that we're gonna learn exactly how much they're. I think we're gonna figure out like, oh shit, they did get rights to X, Y, and Z, but not all. You know what I mean? Because there's just gonna be things that's like, that's not in the appendices, or that's not meant referenced in Lord of the Rings. I mean, there are things that are referenced that they can pull from, but
my understanding
we're gonna figure it out.
Is that there's gonna be stuff that they are going to allude to that may not be the focal point of a scene, but there may be a reference to something between two characters, or there may be an item or a shot that we see kind of off to the side that is going to be purposely, like they told us they're going to be putting things in there for the fans, like for the people that really read all the stuff and know all the stuff, but that it may not be specifically named, it may not be specifically mentioned. So they have told, I mean, they've got a team of lawyers that are essentially advising them on how far they can go up to things. So there may be things that they've got individual rights to. There also may be things that they have just towed up to the line on for the hardcore fans, because like, we have to remember, they're not making this for the 1% of people that have read all the stuff and know all the stuff. They're making this for the majority. And I think that's why it's smart focusing on Elrond and Galadriel, because like, the majority of Tolkien fans have seen the Peter Jackson movies, and I would say that's probably like 80 or 90% of people. And
And
It
I
would
would say
be
it's
smart.
definitely a bigger percentage than people who've even read Lord of the Rings.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Right,
Totally.
agreed.
Like, I think
like
movie people and then book people and then like Silmarillion people and then like letters and unfinished tales and like everybody else,
it
you
just
know, like,
smaller and
and they're
smaller.
not going to make it. They're
Exactly.
not going to make it for that little tiny sliver on the pie chart. They're going to make it for how the most people they can reach in terms of audience. So I like that they're
Yes.
focusing on
Yeah.
Elrond and Galadriel because that's what people know. People already know them. We know all the other characters that are in there because we've read this stuff, but they're going to have to introduce them as if they're new characters. And I think that's why they're
Yeah.
not focusing on much on them in trailers and stuff because most
Yeah.
people are just going to
Yeah, I
recognize
think
Elrond and Galadriel.
to me the vibe is that like we kick it off with the elves and some trying to make their way as far as like, okay, we're making a new life for ourselves in the second age. Like Balerion got fucked, we're gonna be chill now. And you know, you've got Gilgalad and Lyndon, and then Elrond probably trying to like carve out whatever that looks like for him. There's no Rivendell yet. And then Celebrimbor goes off with, you know, like the dwarves are doing their thing. Celebrimbor goes and chills us with them. And then Galadriel, meanwhile, is like, she's putting up, it seems to me like putting a pause in her plan for Lorien, which I think has always been the game plan, you know?
Yep.
But then she is not quite satisfied with that peace narrative and is like going off and looking for the servants of Morgoth, and I think that Sauron being the main guy, and with all the flashes that we're starting to see of Finrod related stuff, I think he is the reason that her brother is dead. So
this is a vendetta.
Mhm.
Like we are getting a vendetta plotline, and I am here for it because Sauron, he's a dick. Like he deserves a vendetta. Yeah, yeah. But he's also the best. Like, what a cool villain. Like,
I mean,
but
I know, and I think that's why we're also not seeing him in the trailer because he has got to deliver.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like he is going. If they do Sauron right, like he is going to knock our socks off. Like I think he's got to be. Like I think he's gonna be one of those guys where it's like, I love him and I hate him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he's gonna be fun to watch.
Has to be. Yeah.
He has to be, and if not, then that's a real bummer. That's gonna let people down. So I think that like the evil people we're starting to see, my guess, is probably more like followers of him, and he's still being a sneaky bitch behind the shadows, which is like more his vibe anyway. He's not gonna like reveal himself before he's ready.
No.
So I think we're starting to see his influence on things, but they're still like, where the heck is he? Where? How is he doing this? You know, and that's how he'll be able to like slip on in there. I'm almost wondering if they're not even going to bother having Anatar like show up to Gilgalad. I wonder if they just might cut right to him like sneaking up on Celebrimbor, but I don't know.
We'll see, because I'm definitely getting I won't go into the whole like Aldarion and Arendis story in depth, but that's where we get the story of Gilgalad sending a letter to Tarmanel, however you say his name.
I don't know.
Arendis' dad, or Aldarion's father. I'm blanking on his name. Starts with an M. Sorry. He gets like a letter from Gilgalad talking about like the forthcoming shadow, and like we need your help, like calling for aid, basically. That may be one of those like subtle nods or something they got specific rights to, because that's like a really clutch moment for creating tension between the Numenorians, who are kind of like insular at the moment. Like, they're colonizing and stuff, but they don't really care about helping the elves at this period in time. So if they're condensing timelines, that could be a really we know they're condensing timelines. That could be a really cool tie-in. Like Gilgalad being like, oh, Galadriel was right. Please help. Numenor, please help.
I think we're gonna start seeing hints of what they have rights to, and what like
100%.
they're obviously working with the estate. We know that. There's no way that and they're also been told like you can't deviate too much from. So there's definitely they're gonna get like pushes to be like, go this way with that idea, or you know. And I know that Anna has to leave us before we go into our crazy theorizing. But Anna, do you have any other thoughts about either Rings of Power or House of the Dragon before you log off?
I mean, it seems very exciting for both. I think this is going to be a powerful fall for, like nerdom. We're here, and
Yes.
it's going to be really exciting to keep chatting about all of this stuff and like episode by episode what's going to happen.
I know, right?
It's gonna be great. I mean,
And
especially like we haven't had anything new for either of us. I mean, especially Lord of the Rings, but
yeah,
Game of Thrones either because George refuses to finish his books.
he's got time
Come
to show
on
up to
now.
Comic-Con. I think he's got time
Yeah.
to
He's got time
write my
to
book.
advise on Elden Ring. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, come on, George. We know you've got the time. We do.
Yep.
Let's just not.
Yep.
Let's write the book.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Anna.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Nice to see you. Bye.
Okay. Now that leaves the hardcore nerds. Love her. Obsessed.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
He's so sweet.
She is.
Yeah.
I know.
Just curious, how long do we want to go for the rest of this?
What do you want to do? I mean,
Well,
probably not forever, right? We've been talking for an hour, but let's get out there's so much to speculate about, but
Right.
like let's get into like our top theories. I know that Nick and Emily, you guys, I like started bugging you on TikTok when you guys were like, I have so many thoughts.
I know.
If you two want to kick it off for
Sure.
some of
Yeah.
your theories that we can get out there into the
Yeah,
world.
Emily, go. I'm so excited to hear
No,
your
no, no,
thoughts.
no. You go first. You go first.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
Okay,
no, please.
my-
No, please.
This is a throwaway one,
Uh-huh.
and then I have like a bigger theory that I'm probably gonna ramble about because I was like I should try to write this down.
Mhm.
No, I don't know what to
We'll
write.
work it
There's
out.
too
Right,
much.
yeah.
We'll work
Yeah.
it out.
But just because I'm paused on it, so the dinner scene or the feast scene,
Yeah.
where we see during the fourth, Elrond, Celebrimbor,
It's like the
Gil-galad.
whole crew.
I think Galadriel is the blonde person who we can't really see. I might not
Probably.
be, but what do we know from the first stage? Never have a party. Bad shit happens after a party. Like
Mhm.
something bad is gonna happen
Mhm.
while these people are meeting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm
and
just
Gil-galad looks so upset in that clip.
he does. He does not look nearly as happy. Like everyone else is like, oh, cheers, and Gil-galad is like
It's like, this is a bad idea.
contemplating evil things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, I'm calling it now. Whenever they cut from that scene, it's going to be like we, the audience, are seeing something that the good guys won't see pay off for like 5 or 6 episodes down the road. Like something bad is going to be going down, like the culmination of something evil. Just throwing that one out there. My bigger one has to do with I'm trying to think of how to compare this to other, franchises without spoiling anything for anyone, but like
I'm sorry, but like things gonna be spoiled. I don't.
that's true. That's
I
true.
don't know
Spoiler
how-
alert for The Witcher and Westworld season 1.
If
I'll-
anybody regularly listens to this, like we talk about Star Wars and Game of Thrones, obviously,
Okay.
like just sorry.
It's coming out. It's coming out. But yeah, I'm going to talk about Westworld season 1 and The Witcher. So Westworld season 1, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling the reason to watch the first season. It's a great season anyway, but it's set in a world where, people can go and like play cowboy, right? For as
Yeah.
long as they want, basically, as long as they can pay.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out that one of the main weird villains, I think he's called the Man in Black in the script before you find out who he is, is one of the other storyline main characters. And you find out it's actually a timeline, like they're playing with timelines, revealing to us kind of the puzzle of what Westworld is through these different timelines. So that kind of popularized this concept in modern, like the past 5-year sort of thing. The Witcher then comes out and does basically the same thing, but from a fantasy perspective, where you're getting multiple timelines, but it's never made clear that that's the case. You know, it's not like they're doing like a
You
color
think it's
shift.
all
It was
happening
so
at the same
confusing.
time.
It took me like
It was
3 or
so
4
confusing.
episodes to figure out what was happening.
Yep. But once you do, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
now I get
Yeah.
it. Like, because at first you're like, how is Geralt getting all over the
Yeah, I was
place so
so
fast?
confused.
So
It's
confused.
like, and then like
It's
the
so
the
weird.
timelines finally like converge, but it's like not
Yes.
clear at the beginning whatsoever. Like they don't do the like, okay, this
Oh,
is
no.
this year, this is this year, this is this year. You're just sort of like,
No, you feel like everything's happening all at once.
yeah,
Exactly. I think they're going to play some version of that trick on us. I hope they do it as well as Westworld did. Witcher was confusing, and I think that put people off. I liked it because I was like, all right, a bunch of people like this show, so I'm going to stick it out, even though this is like overly confusing why things are happening the way they are. And that one felt cheaper. The Witcher felt a little cheaper, like it was just for the gag.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Versus Westworld, that added to the storytelling. So I think we're going to get something like that, and I'll give you my like evidence, if you will. So we know we're going to get legit flashbacks.
Yes.
I think from how they zoom in on the Palantir, assume that's
Yeah.
definitely a Palantir.
Oh yeah.
Like we know that that's going to be obvious when it's a flashback.
Yeah.
But also know that elves and to a lesser extent dwarves live a hell of a long time. So we could be seeing Galadriel in like 3 or 4 different timelines potentially. So I think she might be the Geralt of the show, where we're seeing her in different places. So like on the seas, that's early Galadriel maybe, or later, who knows? Like maybe she's an envoy to ask for help from Gil-galad of Numenor, right? Like maybe that's what she's doing. Or maybe she's like, Middle Earth was cool, but let's go back to Amon now. You know, because we're done, because the war's over, right? Like I've paid my respects to my brother's body, like let's go home. And then she can't for whatever reason, whether they're pulling in canon stuff, like Galadriel had like a special ban beyond the ban of the Noldor, or who knows what. But then sea creature keeps her from going, blah blah blah. But then, like, what is she doing on the horse in the cavalry charge? What is she doing in the ice? Like, those things are so far apart. Like, just thinking of the layout of Middle Earth, like, how is she going to be in like fighting ice trolls, and then the next episode be on the high seas?
Yeah,
so,
it's not clear like when all of these things are happening. Like, there's too much back and forth that to be like in such a short amount of time.
Exactly. Granted, that could be the trailer being cut together, and like all of the stuff that's in the north is going to be in those first. I don't know. Is it true? Is it confirmed that the first 2 episodes are going to be very like prologue-y, like
I mean,
lots
that's
of
what
flashbacks?
I've heard. I don't think I've gotten anything like firm confirmation, but I feel like probably at this point.
Yeah, there's probably going to be front-loading us with backstory.
I think it'll be a lot of like setup, like a lot of introducing character. I mean, because there's so many characters. So like I feel like it'll be introducing characters and sort of like beginnings of journeys.
Yeah, and I feel like they've got to give the audience who isn't as familiar with like Elrond's backstory or Galadriel's like reason for him to be like, I've seen my share, and her to be like, bitch, no you haven't.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
You know, I think that they're gonna probably give us a little bit of that, and then start just like, I mean, and then we'll probably get more flashbacks as we go on, but they've got to set up something for us to understand like why there aren't maybe that many elves right now, or you know, what
that's a good point too.
The heck, like why Elrond doesn't have Rivendell yet, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're gonna be basing it off of like understanding that if anybody comes to the show with any kind of background, it's going to be mostly PJ's movies, you know?
Right. And so, like, we have to understand why everyone's coming who's never read any of the books is coming with, like, the preconceived notion of Galadriel being kind of a homebody, right? Like, she never leaves Lothlorien. Well, no. She was all over the place, right? Yeah. She was in Lindon, and then when Eregion was was formed, she was there, and all of this stuff. So yeah, I don't know. We're definitely going to see some interesting things done there for sure.
Yeah.
But then just the one other thing, I hope I'm allowed to say this. If not, Emily will tell me, and then we'll cut it out. But I have heard from others who were there that we're also going to, like, this first season is very much about setting up why all the different places where someone receives a ring later on, like, why are they relevant?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So that's another, I don't know if it's evidence
I
for
think we
my
can say
theory,
that.
but like, okay,
Because like
cool.
something that that's something that the showrunners sort of mentioned is they're setting up
Yeah, they said
they're
that.
setting up why should we care, essentially, like why do
Right.
we, like, there can't be this like great evil stuff happen and it be impactful until we
Right.
care about the places and the people and the friendships and stuff.
Right.
So I think a lot of the first season and potentially even the second season is going to be a lot of like what makes this story so important, like what makes it so
Yeah.
special, because if there's nothing to, like, until you have that, there's nothing to lose. Essentially, they have to build stuff up so that if a loss whenever loss happens, whenever something bad happens, that we feel the loss.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree. I think that that's also like, it's interesting that we're kind of jumping. I do think that with Numenor, it's obviously going to be fairly different from what we can, what we know from the text, as far as just like, with Muriel already being like Queen Regent, I think is what they refer to her as, and then with Pharazôn being there at the same time, like, and he is, I don't know, I think they're setting him up to be more of like a Rasputin guy, like a counselor dude that
Yes.
it's advising her differently than Galadriel's advising her, and I feel like she's gonna end up being like between a rock and a hard place in a lot of ways.
Ooh.
Like that she.
That gets,
Say it, Nick.
okay, that gets to another thing. This is not my original idea. We were talking about it in a Discord chat, but like, they're gonna do, I think, a cool thing, which is combining, like, what's the pile of helmets?
Mm-hmm.
It could be the Howthen near Nyath. It could be just a random pile of stuff at the end of the War of Wrath, or the Dagor Bragollach, like whatever. I think it's going to be an analog for all or most of those first stage battles.
Yeah.
It's just like this, like tallying the dead in general of that, several thousand year period.
Yeah.
And we're going to get other things like that too, I think, which to me is a nice way to streamline it for the casual viewer. But for us, we can start to pick apart like, that's what they were referencing. So now it becomes like a fun analyzing the art rather than expecting it to be exactly like, I want to be surprised.
Yes.
I don't want it to fit exactly as it happened.
Thank you.
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah.
Same.
Like, I don't feel like if you like consume media with like a textbook in front of you going, okay, check, like, you can't enjoy it that way. You just, that's no fun for anybody. It's not fun for the creator who these people clearly have put so much of their creative energies into this, and it's not fun for you because you're just going to be disappointed no matter what you do. Like, there always artistic, influence on these things. So
100%.
I can't imagine that being enjoyable for anybody who just wants to just like things, just watch something and have fun with it. Like, I can't imagine why people are like rooting for this thing to fail. It just has never made sense for me.
Too much time on their hands, honestly.
I know, right?
So yeah, I agree. I think that we are gonna get like subtle references, like for us, and then it'll just be like better to set up, a better understanding of who these people are in general for like everyone else. Like, I don't think they're gonna do anything that, I would assume they would only do it if it helps add to the story. They're, I don't think we're gonna just, I mean, they are gonna do like there's so many characters. They're gonna do a lot of different things, I would say, but I do think that right now it's kind of like pivotal, like time wise, to kind of set us up for like where we are in the world, like what's going on, what's the deal, kind of getting to know the characters more so than having
and the world.
Yeah.
Like, because this is, I mean, some people describe Third Age as like post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
because there were essentially two apocalypses. Like,
Right.
there was a sinking of a continent. Oh, like Eru was like, hold my beer, let's
Yeah.
reshape the world into a
Right.
globe.
This is totally different.
But,
Middle
like,
Earth, though, like this is a totally
it
different
is.
continent, landscape, everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I
we
mean,
have to feel there has to be a through line of connection, but it shouldn't feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
right.
Like, that would be doing a disservice to the actual lore,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if it just felt like we're supposed to see the things that become ruins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I hope that they really, I mean, I think we've started to see that, like them talking about the set. Like, I know that everyone was like super on set was like super excited about the Numenorian sets. I
Mhm.
feel like they've
Yeah.
talked the most about those in interviews, but
I've
like
heard good things about
I mean-
Khazad Doom too. I feel like
yeah,
Oh, I'm
that is
so
gonna be
excited.
sick.
there's something that
It
Leith
looks
said.
so
Excited.
nice.
Leith said that.
Yeah, it's
that was
gonna
her favorite.
be it's gonna be really interesting, especially like how they bring Elendil into this, since it's kind of early days for him. And
Yeah.
he is like the tail end, but the way they're smushing it, I feel like he's gonna be obviously allying with Galadriel. You see them on that beach together.
Yes, riding the horses.
Yeah, so I feel like we're gonna get. I know that we've got all these human characters. I don't exactly know how Bronwyn and Arondir are gonna play into this. I'm really interested to see that, though. Do you guys have any thoughts on those two?
Of course I do, but
Okay.
I've talked a lot. Callie, what do you think about Arondir and Bronwyn?
Sorry, about Arondir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bronwyn? I don't know if I have anything startling or original or and different from what we've been saying. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the change of, usually it's elf, maiden, and human man, but this time it'll be elf man and human maiden. And
Yeah.
That's a good point.
and like, how does that change how the romance will be, or how they're accepted or not accepted by their various races? So
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought
That's
of that.
gonna be meaty. Ooh,
Yeah.
I hadn't either. That's cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we're gonna see like Numenorian stuff. I think I kind of have a sense of what that's gonna be like, as far as like the political issues. You've got like the faithful and like the Kingsmen or whatever, and dealing with what they're gonna do, or like how they're gonna help Galadriel, because Galadriel's are obviously chilling with them in some capacity. But then I think we're gonna have this separate storyline with like the men of Middle Earth. I mean, we've already seen, like, I thought it was really interesting when they had I think it's Nori narrating, like, the elves have their forests to protect, the men the fields of grain, and I feel like that's got to be a reference to like the men of Middle Earth, not Numenor. Like, not
Totally.
we're talking middlemen, like the men that are just doing their thing, and I feel like that's like the Bronwyn stuff. So the kind of like what they're up to, and then how Numenor probably inserts itself into their lives somehow. That's got to be there. And then also how Sauron, because Sauron starts, like, when he fails with the elves, he starts messing with men, so I think, and maybe it all happens at the same time in this, where he's,
but that goes back to my timeline thing. Like, I think they'd be doing themselves from, like, put Tolkien lore aside for a second.
Yeah.
It feels like lazy writing to make all of these kingdoms just like, and regions just happen to be primed to fall to Sauron at the same time. Like, no, it's more like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Like, he goes after Eregion, etc. first, and then maybe he starts in the south with the men. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it would be cool for us to see all of those things happening at the same time, but then have it revealed that they're completely different timelines.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where, like, Arondir and Bronwyn can give us a little of that, because
Mhm.
it seems like they're trying to like rally people to their
Yeah.
cause of good
Yeah.
in a different way than we're seeing Galadriel and the
Right.
Númenóreans and Gil-galad.
Yeah. I think the stranger, the meteor man, is definitely gonna like it. The vibe that I'm getting from all the trailers is that he's the catalyst. Like there's a bunch of shots of the different people seeing the meteor go through the sky, and obviously he crashes in the thing, and so it'll be interesting to see how him and the interaction with the hobbits and everybody else, like how that catalyzes the story.
I'll just ask, who do you think the stranger is?
Well, I mean, okay, this is where I get back to my whole Sauron thing, where it's like I feel like they've teased too many characters to be Sauron, like especially with the teaser that came out before the full trailer, where everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, Sauron!" Like the eye and the fire and stuff. So
eye roll,
and then
indeed.
there was also somebody on Twitter, I think, pointed out that there's like a shot of him. I believe it's this new Comic-Con trailer, I'm not quite sure, of him like on the ground, and he's sort of like the ground like ripples around him, similar to a way that it does with Gandalf. So I think I'm leaning towards him not being evil based on also the stuff that his actor, I can't quite remember his name, but something that the actor said at Comic-Con during one of the Q&As, like somebody asked like about the character. I'm not feeling like he's evil. Originally there was some part of me that was like he could be Sauron, but again, there's too many people that they've teased to be Sauron. I still don't think that's totally been revealed yet, but he's definitely mysterious. He could be a wizard. I'm kind of rooting for him being a wizard.
I kind of feel like he's a wizard too, because I think that there was an interview where they said that he may be a character. He's 80% original.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did point that out.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me think like, well, we don't know jack about the blue wizards really,
right?
You know, or maybe who knows? Maybe they make up a wizard that like super fails, and then they have to send the rest of the 5. I don't know.
Maybe it's Radagast.
Exactly. But there's the fire component, and this could be totally off the wall, but like, what if he is another Maya of fire, and he's kind of like a foil to the Balrog that we see at the end? Like, he's a good Maya of fire.
Interesting.
Maybe, or maybe maybe he is the Balrog. I don't know. No, because the Balrog was asleep. I'm not gonna. They're not gonna fuck with that. The Balrog was asleep. The dwarves delved too greedily and too deep. They're not.
You think
gonna
this
fuck
is the
with
same
that.
Balrog?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, what if it's another person? What if it's a Balrog in disguise, being like, I know one of my homies is still here. Let's go find him.
Sorry, I found the quote. It was Dan Wayman. Gets asked who he is, and he says, "There's a mystery. Everyone is going to have to watch to learn who he is and what his intentions are, but I will say he has a deep source of purpose, and there's something primal about him."
Oh man.
Yeah.
That was like a perfectly worded answer.
I know. I'm sure they've been like coached and rehearsed about all of the answers to these questions. It's really good.
They had PR handlers with them the whole time. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Primal.
Oh yeah.
You know what I was thinking about when we're talking about the Balrog? Right before this, I was thinking about how in Lord of the Rings, when we have our first Balrog, that we really interact with, Gandalf they're like counter spelling at each other over that door that ends up breaking the chamber, and I'm like, okay, but then we've never seen a Balrog talk, but we know like eagles can talk.
Same with the eagles.
Everybody
like,
be talking.
Are we gonna get speaking eagles potentially?
We better. And so I'm just like, we pretty sure confirmed Ent. So like, I don't know. Maybe Balrogs be talking now. I'd be down.
Yeah.
I'm into it. I mean, they definitely had the capacity at one point, maybe pre full corruption, but
Yeah. Maybe our
Yeah,
sleepy
there's-
Balrog just doesn't really talk because
Yeah.
He's just the introverted Balrog.
yeah. It's like
He hasn't had his
I don't
morning
wanna
coffee yet.
yeah.
exactly.
Truly.
He just roars at orcs. That's
Yeah.
how he gives them orders. That's it.
Uh,
Oh, angry dad in the basement.
you kids are being too loud up there.
Yeah. Truly. Actually.
Literally.
Yeah, I think we're definitely getting cult stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Didn't the actress Bridie, what's her name?
I don't know how to say
Sisson?
everybody's name.
Yeah, I don't.
Which
Apologies if you're
Yeah.
listening to this. But she said something that implied cult, like followers of, and
Yeah.
that brings up like something you said, like these followers of Morgoth. When there's a power vacuum, maybe like some of these evil people might not have anything to do with Morgoth or Sauron. They
I
might
feel
just
like-
be bad.
I feel like Adar. I feel like I get those vibes from the Adar character, which a lot of
Yeah,
people.
who
I
is
think,
that supposed to be?
when his poster first dropped, everybody was like Sauron. Again,
Mhm.
speaking to, I do feel like we're gonna get sort of like a monster of the week kind of thing. Like like there's gonna be some of these like smaller villains that they have to contend with. Some that may be in league with Sauron, some that may not be. Like I get the
May
sense
just
that
be
Adar
jerks.
has like just rounded up tribes of orcs and
Yes.
is leading them. Like there's that one shot from the last teaser where they're kind of all
Right.
marching up this pathway.
Yep.
And you can kind of see him in the front, and it's like, where is he going? Like, what's his motivation? Like, he could
Which,
be.
by the way, I think that's the same bridge that Arondir jumps
Yes.
down and kicks something off of. Like, I think that's the
Yeah.
same. Like, we're
same
seeing
bridge. Yeah.
that. But he's like pulling solo. Like, this is giving me Aragorn in front of the gates of Helm
Yeah,
Deep,
yeah.
like holding,
Yeah.
Amir.
Like-
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really there's so much, and it's just like I don't know. I'm living for this like confusing state, honestly, where it's like I
Same.
kind of know, but I really don't.
I can't wait to look back on all this and just laugh and be like, oh, so obvious.
Yeah.
Once we've seen it
know.
all.
Yeah, like, duh.
Be like, oh, we were
I
way
know. I
off.
wonder if this is gonna be like. Did you guys watch Broadchurch? Where,
Yes.
well, basically, this little boy is killed, and like they're trying to figure out who done it. And when I showed that show to my husband, and he was guessing literally everyone except the guy that
Yep.
did it, and
Yep.
because I'd already seen it, so I knew. But then like I forgot. It was weird.
It's a really good, like, it's a fantastic mystery show. That first season is so good.
And so I feel like we're gonna get a lot of false leads here too.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
And
Same.
because I feel like for me, the vibe from the showrunners is that because there is a lot of gap filling that they need to do, they kind of have to hone in on, okay, like what is the point of Middle Earth?
Mhm.
What is the point of telling these stories? And I think that
Yes.
that is the thing of like, what is the nature of evil? How do people overcome it? How do people come together to do that? You know, stuff like that. So I think, and I think that, you know, things that we were kind of talking about in the Discord about like moral ambiguity, I think that they have a lot of room to explore more of that kind of Tolkien lit some breadcrumbs for.
Yes.
And so I think that we have a lot of opportunity to play with characters like that. Like we're getting teased a whole lot of people that could be bad, they could be not, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Mhm.
like I think we're gonna get I think we're gonna see some playing with those ideas, and even like I bet you like the whole Galadriel put down your sword thing, I bet there's gonna be a moment where she is like hot on someone's trail and then follows a misdirect, and then they're gonna be Galadriel, you're wrong, chill out, and then she's gonna be like, no. I feel like there's gonna be something like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna, and then she's gonna be like Charlie Day in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like with all the like red
Yes.
string between, like he's here. It's really happening. Come on, guys. Like, just believe me.
Yeah.
How are you not picking up what I'm putting down? And then I feel like you're
Exactly.
gonna have Gil-galad being like, like I feel like he is also gonna be getting like picking up what she's putting down, but maybe not being so obvious about it, and she's gonna
Yes.
feel alone in her theories. You know what I mean? I feel like that happens a lot in shows, so I wouldn't be surprised if they use him to do something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, is it not true that like every TV show you've ever watched, the problem is they don't talk to each other?
Yes,
Yes.
there's
So-
always the miscommunication trope is like my least favorite trope. Like when everything
Same.
that goes wrong in a show or a movie could be solved by one person telling another
One
person
text.
one thing. I'm just like, you lost
Yeah.
me. I'm just frustrated the
Yep.
whole time.
But you're right. That is so much of, especially television.
Yes.
That's the thing. So I hope they avoid that.
Yeah.
And it's more, they literally couldn't tell them, or they could only tell
But
them when it was too
Think
late.
about elves in general. All the time, even in Lord of the
Fair.
Rings, they're like, "Hey, can I have some advice?" And they're like, "Ooh."
Yes and no. come not to the Eldar, for they will answer both yes and no.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah, I think we're gonna get that, and people are just gonna be like, "Okay, well, I gotta do something."
Yep.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like even Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, she kind of does that, but then she'll like actually give you an answer,
Yes.
and that could be because she's been like, "God, that's so stupid." Like, I'm just gonna give you an answer. Like, you know what
I
I mean?
love that take. Yeah. Yeah, because she'll be like, all right, I'm gonna give you the information that I know to be true, and now I'm gonna give you my take.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just stating it all as fact.
Right.
I wish some people would take a note out of her book
Yeah.
on the internet. Like you don't know shit, nerdrotic. Shut up.
Do we have any other? I mean, there's a lot to unpack. I think a lot of it is just gonna be like, we'll see it when we see it. But do we have
Yes.
any other feelings on what we're seeing here in this trailer, or even just like final thoughts on like what we're most looking forward to now that we finally get to hear the dialogue and the characters interacting with each other? What are our final thoughts?
I'm really looking forward to Khazad-dûm.
Yes.
Same.
I really
Every
like
time they put the dwarves in the trailers, they look amazing. They sound amazing. Like,
Yeah.
here
But one
for
of the
it.
like big quotes that came out of the Q&As at Comic-Con was about how like dwarves will not be the butt of the joke. Like we are very serious about like dwarf culture and like creating like seeing Khazad-dûm in its peak, seeing
Good.
you know I'm totally blanking on their names. Sophia Numvet and Owain Arthur. I'm like switching to the actors'
Like,
names now.
Yeah, like
I know.
Disa and Doran.
They like
There's
their
so many
characters,
Dorans.
seeing like their family and their I don't know, just like the relationships between Elrond and the dwarves is definitely going to
Yes.
be a big plot point because we've seen him. There's been multiple shots of him in Khazad-dûm now, so yeah, I just appreciate that. I'm glad that dwarves are finally getting their day in the sun.
Me too.
You guys bringing up Khazad-dûm reminds me of, I think it was the first teaser the first time we see Elrond. It's as a rock is being smashed, and then we get the quote like about the rock and the hammer.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
No, I feel like there's like a rock splitting contest or something.
It's gotta be.
Well,
There's gotta
we've seen 2 shots now of Durin holding the gem or speculating it's maybe
something
part
that's gonna be the start of a new era.
Yeah, like something holding it in his hand. So like there's definitely gonna be something about that. Like the dwarves will have their own motivations and their own like plot line, I think, down there.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes.
I love it. What am I most excited for? I don't know. I'm honestly really excited for Arondir and Bronwyn because they are original characters in Middle Earth. So like I kind of am a little wary of original characters in like Numenor and in the elf plot lines too much because there's just so much already in the books to go from. Like let those kind of be their own thing. But Arondir and Bronwyn give us the chance to see what Middle Earth was like for the middlemen and for the Sylvan elves. Like those elves who are a little more wild, a little more like your fairy tale elves.
Yeah.
Instead of the high fantasy that we normally are used to. So
Yes.
I think I'm excited for that, and I'm just so excited for action scenes. Like,
Yeah.
give me Neo-esque, like diving through a fighting pit, orcs
Yeah.
against orcs and wolves and whatever. Like, please, that's
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
so
I mean,
cool.
we've seen all
I
the
wonder.
flips and the.
I know his character is
Oh my
obviously
gosh.
doing the most
Yeah.
when it
Yes.
comes to the action.
Well,
So
there was a quote.
I'm
They
excited.
literally made a new like they combined a bunch of martial arts
Yeah.
fighting styles, including jujitsu,
Yeah.
and like which
gonna
he's
be
already
sick.
skilled at. Like, oh my god, it's gonna
Well,
be
there
so
was a
sick.
quote.
Yeah.
One of the quotes from Comic-Con was about how like Ismael Cruz Cordova, like they couldn't get him out of the training gym, and
Yeah.
Right.
Nazanin even said like I couldn't get him to go to dinner with me. Like he just was always training, like always in the gym. So I was like, clearly
Wow.
he's gonna have some pretty epic action shots.
I know, even that final shot where he is like sweating profusely and gets
and the
grabbed by
arms
like
grab,
all those
I literally.
hands.
It's terrifying.
Oh, so creepy.
like,
I'm
Did
so
anyone
excited.
Did anyone get like Labyrinth vibes from that?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Oh my
Put that
gosh.
magic spell on you.
Yeah.
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 So
Lord of the Rings with Muppets. That would be great.
saying, just put Jim Henson and Lord of the Rings together, and
Right?
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man.
got a winning combination.
That is a killer combo. It's two of my favorite
I
things.
mean, Dark Crystal was one of my favorite things ever. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
into it. Yeah.
There you go.
What about you, Andy? What are you most excited for?
Yeah.
Oh god, I think I'm super excited to get to know Muriel and like the way that they take her story. I already love her like profusely, like
Mhm.
just
So
from
cool.
a couple of lines, and from seeing her at Comic-Con or like the panels that were released online.
Yeah.
I think she seems super cool. I love the idea. Obviously, I don't know anything for sure, but I love the idea of like they have a woman in power there, and she is going to have to deal with all of kind of these outside and inside forces. Like, I just think it's gonna be really complex and interesting to see like how her character plays out. Like, because I feel like she's kind of ambiguous. Like, she could kind of, if she yields to Farazan, which I don't know how that will happen or when, or you know what I mean. Like, I'm invested in how they play that out, because for Rings of Power, this is one of those stories where, like, I know that there are people that are like, stay true to the lore, and I'm like, honestly, I'm not even concerned. Like, they're dealing with an outline, and
Right.
they have a lot of room, and I think the things that I am looking for, and because I'm also never been like a lore person per se, I'm here for like the bigger themes of Tolkien, and I'm interested in how they use the second age stuff to give us, because I think it's going to be leaning on like the themes of Lord of the Rings in some ways.
Totally.
That's what they've got, but also putting it in this different context, and it's like a vaster context because we've got so many different nations involved now, rather than like a group of dudes like representing nations, but they're all kind of just like, it's like a
One
smaller
unit.
scale, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm kind of hoping that it gets dark in places, like with once Sauron is revealed, like I want shit to hit the fan, but I want to be like creepily rooting for him in a way. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I'm just excited for the possibilities this show represents for not only Tolkien's world, but and like Middle Earth and Arda in general, but also what this means for the fans.
Yeah.
I think that I have met so many folks where like The Hobbit is their favorite thing, and it's like they're so much younger than me, and that was like one of their first things, and like I get why that, like the Peter Jackson movies, and they're silly and they're something different, but like or they're just, or like people just loving Lord of the Rings because of the Hobbits, and they've got Harfoots in this. I just think that there's going to be so many, and we're finally seeing, black and like, people of color represented in Tolkien. So I feel like it's gonna be when Durin says like it's gonna be like the beginning of a new era. I feel like that's true for
Oh
the
yeah,
fandom as well.
I think they picked
Yes.
those voiceovers like so they are so pointed,
Mhm.
not only to the like alluding to plot points, but also just to what they're trying to do with the show. Like the
Yes.
quotes about the past, the quotes about
Mhm.
like the one you just mentioned. Like I think that's all very intentional.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
it's. I mean, there's. At this point we have nothing but things to be excited about. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's
Like
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
it's
feel very
it's gonna be a fun ride.
optimistic.
You know.
Yeah.
It is.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for what this means for the fans and what
Mhm.
we can, you know, because whenever you put something that you're kind of familiar with through a different lens, I feel like you learn something else about it.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like I think you even get that with Peter's. Like even when he takes a different spin on a situation or a character, you're like,
Mhm.
there's situations where you're like meh, and then there's situations where
Mhm.
you're like wow, that's a cool take, or I love
Yeah.
that interpretation,
Yeah.
and I think that's a more chances for that. You know, just getting more people in, because with like things like Tolkien, like it is. I mean, we have like mostly Lord of the Rings, but like all of it. I mean, there's a lot of universal stories and themes in here, and so
Yes.
I think that something like Rings of Power lets us continue to explore those in like
Mhm.
new ways, and yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's all good things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Totally agree.
So if
Emily,
we
did
don't
we
have,
get your
yeah,
favorite
Emily.
your thing you're most excited about?
I think as a whole, I am more excited about Galadriel and the elves story. I'm very excited about the First Age / like Valinor flashbacks. Like that is something I
Yes.
have always wanted to see. Like since I first
Yeah.
read the Silmarillion, like I was like, wow, this would make a great TV show. Like I remember saying this and thinking this when I first read it, and
That's
so like
amazing.
even
Yeah.
the possibility of seeing just like smidgen, a little bit of stuff from that part is very exciting to me. I have always been the most interested in like the more like ancient history kind of aspect of the Silmarillion. So like very
Yeah.
excited about the elves, very excited about like the different places that we're going to go. Numenor
yes.
especially I think looks really cool, and I think it's going to be a big focal point. So but yeah, I mean
Yeah.
everything else you guys
I
said
love
about
that.
the cast and the showrunners and stuff, like I'm just so glad that now everybody else is kind of hearing this stuff that we kind of heard little bits of back in May. But like to have to be for the cast to be able to like speak freely about this kind of stuff, and like for everybody else to kind of know, like there was a quote, one of my favorite quotes from the Q&As and stuff was Sarah, who plays Marigold, I believe, one of the Harfoots.
Oh yeah.
Um, she said, people talk a lot about the history, language, world building, but ultimately what's relatable is the friendship, the loyalty, the fight to do right against all odds, and the fight against oneself. We all have those battles, and hopefully we have friends to turn to. Tolkien has such a wonderful lyrical way of addressing those issues and bringing them to life. I think that's what you'll see from our show.
Yes.
It's something universal in his work. I feel like that just sums
Yes.
up
Oh,
so much
perfect.
about
That's awesome.
what they're
Yeah, I love
doing
that.
and like what like there's been so much concern about like the showrunners and whoever else like understanding Tolkien and like the themes, and for me it's not so much about like being true to the lore and like little ticky-tacky details as much as it is
Right.
just understanding what the stories mean and making them relatable, making them universal, and making it something that stands the test of time. So that is what I'm most
Yes.
hopeful about, and that I think and I hope this show is going to do very well. So I would say that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think it says something to me that they've got it's a lot of new faces in even, and like the showrunners are relatively new. I think that had to be a deliberate choice in finding people that like really want to tell this story
Yeah.
in a way that you know means something to Tolkien fans, but also like people in general. You know, like having an understanding of what it is that Tolkien is saying, but also, you know, like caring. Like obviously we care about like those larger plot points, but
Yes.
there's so many different ways to get there, and especially like it's TV, like it's gonna be different, and the way that you watch television is different than the way you read the books. It's definitely different than the way you read the appendices. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. There's so many ways for it to go, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I have faith.
Same. Yes.
Absolutely.
Much Estelle.
So do we have, I mean, that felt like pretty rapid up to me. This has almost been 2 hours. And I'm sure we could do this for like 5 years.
Oh yeah, we could go frame by frame, but
yeah. Oh, I did that last week. It was like 2.5 hours, and that was the teaser.
Woo!
That was the teaser.
Right.
Nice.
So, I can't imagine. This one's about 30 seconds longer. So.
Yeah.
Thanks,
awesome.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, like, you know, we can touch base again when that we start getting to more cast interviews, and you know, I don't know if they'll put out more trailery stuff, but I'm assuming that once it's, you know, the week of airing, they're probably gonna get everybody on like late night shows and stuff
I'm
like
sure.
that. So
even the month before, I could see that just being like,
like now is the kickoff.
Press junkets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably gonna start now, you know. So
I feel like the floodgates
whenever we learn
opened.
something new,
like, they've been
exactly
like trickling out information, and now it feels like this is the floodgate that has opened the waters to so many conversations and information and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll touch base again whenever there's, you know, there's more stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think for now, I mean, we're all feeling pretty good and ready for whatever the show brings.
Yeah,
I'm excited. This weekend was a big weekend for reveals. So
it sure was. Oh
super extra pumped.
Yes.
Big weekend for FOMO. I don't know about anybody else, but
oh my gosh,
my god,
very.
I was like, I'm so happy for you.
Like everybody's like,
and
Emily, you want to come to New York?
Oh, the guys! Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm trying to get people to come to Atlanta. I'm trying to get Dawn to come to Atlanta for Dragon Con.
Nice.
When is Dragon Con?
It's September. So it's like around, I think it's like, I want to say it's like
a Dragon Con's supposed to be good.
Mid-September. So
yeah,
it could
that's
be
another
like
one of the big
when
ones.
the show is airing. Like I don't think they've announced anything, but
they should have a watch party.
They should have a watch party.
I was like, everybody come stay at my house. We're all going. We're all watching.
Yeah, because we're going. Several of us are going to New York Comic Con.
Oh, yeah, it's
and that's
literally
like
while
October.
It's airing. Dragon Con is September.
Oh my gosh!
1st through the 5th.
See, this is the thing that they haven't said anything about any of the other cons, and I'm like, please just tell me someone's gonna be somewhere.
Yeah,
please.
Right. Because we gotta buy tickets and stuff.
I would love to.
Don't just get all to San Diego.
Yeah.
It's rude.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, I really appreciate all of y'all jumping on here at last second and getting your thoughts out. I had a blast.
Thanks for giving us the space. This was so fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been dying.
There's so much to talk about, and I feel like it's so much easier to do that with like a group of friends.
Yeah.
Like just like theorizing to yourself, and you're like, does this tweet make sense?
I know.
You can go in circles all day doing that.
God, yeah.
You sure can. You sure can. Aw.
Well, thank you guys. I think that is it for this special bonus episode, but we will keep you updated as we learn more things, as people keep talking. So keep an eye on wherever the heck you listen to podcasts, and also like Twitter and Instagram and all of that. That's where we are.
Yeah.
So see you later.